Yes, PD.
Yeah, it's recording already. Great. Hi everyone, welcome to this Facebook live chat. This is as part of the Partner Spotlight series, and today we have Aniruddha from Yagna World. Uh, they work extensively with a good number of MSMEs in different parts of the country, and today I'll be talking to Aniruddha about the work that they do and how did they get to starting Yagna and what is the success that they have had so far working with MSMEs around the country. So welcome Anirudh and thanks for joining us for this Partner Spotlight series.
Thank you, PD. Look forward to the session.
Wonderful. Okay. So to begin with, my first question is that the first time I went to your website, I saw this book called The Goal, being there, and then you mentioned something about theory of constraints. Could you just tell us what is theory of constraints and how is it connected to the work you do at Yagna?
Wonderful. So first of all, thank you, PD, and thank you to Team Game for organizing this. It's wonderful being here. This book, The Goal and TOC. In fact, I came across this book in the late 90s when I was working with a manufacturing company. And when I read it, I was a little surprised because, interestingly, unlike many other management books, it is actually written in the form of a novel. So it is the story of a plant manager who has been given 90 days by his corporate that he either turns around the plant or the plant is going to close down.
Okay.
And as the story goes, obviously the plant closing means that people losing their jobs and all the financial problems and everything. And the book or the novel actually shows how the plant manager by the name of Alex Rogo, how he actually turns the plant around
Okay.
and delivers significant results. And that was the start, in fact, of the theory of constraints journey back in 82, 83 when this book was written by Dr. Eliyahu Goldratt.
Okay.
So
Yes.
Dr. Goldratt was a scientist, first and foremost, a thinker. And when he came into the field of management, I feel that his biggest contribution was that he brought these scientific principles or how science looks at any problem and tries to solve it. He brought the same kind of approach in the field of management. And then over a 30 years, 30, 35 years of his journey, the TOC body of knowledge was expanded to different areas of management. So goal is focused on production, and then he ventured into all kinds of areas and made significant contributions. So say project management, marketing, sales, management accounting, strategy, and then he wrote many books, has created a lot of content. So that's how this whole TOC pieces. I can go on with TOC for the next probably a week. But I got quite interested in this because when I was working in the manufacturing organization, I could actually see whatever he was writing in the book, whatever was written in the book, I could actually see it on the shop floor or in the meetings. And after a period of almost 10 years, when I actually got around to full time working with TOC, with a consulting company which was focused on TOC, that is when I got full time into this. And since last 10 years, I've been practicing TOC with different clients. And 5 years back, four of us, in fact, decided to start a company which will deliver solutions based on solutions coming from TOC with a
Got
focus
it.
on manufacturing and SMEs.
Understood. Understood. Great. I think that's very insightful, and thank you for sharing this with us today. Just going further into Yagna's journey, you said 5 years back, four of you got together, and I have started extensively using this while you work with MSMEs. So, what was the trigger for you? What was the point at which you realized this is something that should be brought to India, and you should be doing this, with businesses across the country?
So there was intersection of multiple factors. See, first of all, in around 2016, our previous consulting organization decided to scale down and venture into a different area. And four of us wanted to continue this journey of delivering results to client in short time. Secondly, when we looked around in the market, what we found is that this missing middle, or the SMEs who are in the middle. On one side, you've got these big corporates, and on the other, you've got startups. This missing middle, or the manufacturing companies, had in fact a lot of potential, lot of capacity, capital, capabilities which were stuck for some period of time. In fact, for example, when we looked at around some data points, we figured out that probably not more than 1 to 2% of the companies continue to grow, say, after the first 3 or 4 years. In fact, a
Right.
lot of them have stagnated at a particular level, and in the worst case, they've in fact had to fold up. And thirdly, as you know, luck would have it, we came across a SME in 2016, who in fact was kind of got after us saying that, you need to work with me and help me to come out of my current situation. And we were able to deliver results there in a period of 90 days. And from there on, the journey continued for almost 2 years, where we doubled his turnover. And that gave us the confidence that yes, this kind of thing can work even in a SME, and that we are able to also work out a win-win commercial model. Because one of the reservations which we had initially was that whether the commercial model will work in case of a SME. But as it turned out, the way we structure our commercials in terms of a low fixed and a high variable, we
Right.
do find that SMEs are open to that. So it was an intersection of all these things. On one side, we found that there was a need in the market from these SMEs in manufacturing. They were looking for a consulting and implementation partner who would not just give them advice and walk away, or who would
Right.
not ask them to invest in a new system or hire more resources. In fact, our mantra is that with whatever existing capacity, resources, plant and machinery they have, we should be able to minimum do 30 to 50% more, get more output, more sales from the existing capacity. And
Got it.
with our experience and capabilities, we were quite confident that we should be able to make a mark, and that is how it has worked out in the last 5 years.
Mhm.
So that was the whole trigger. And of course, this whole vision that, four of us had, that if we have to make an impact on the Indian economy in some way, SMEs is the route. If we are able to make SMEs healthy, strong, productive,
Right.
they will create jobs, and from there, new set of entrepreneurs would get spawned.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that kind of, I think, ties in also with the game philosophy of creating
Absolutely. Absolutely.
job creators rather than job seekers.
Yeah, I think that's where we find a lot of resonance with the work you do, Anirudh. And so, just to delve deeper into your work at Yagna, could you just tell us the number of MSMEs you've worked with so far, the kind of business they are in, and what has been the significant change that they have seen so far because of your interventions?
Sure. So we've got 10 logos so far now, 10 clients whom we have worked with in big projects. There are something like 20 clients where we have done small or mini projects. And a typical client for us is a SME manufacturing company, which has on one side a good amount of orders because of their quality, cost competitiveness, the rapport of the owner entrepreneur with the customers. He's got orders, but for some reason he's not able to deliver those orders. And this entrepreneur has tried multiple solutions. So this is the current reality I'm describing, that when we actually
Right.
start discussing with the SME, this is the current reality. On one side, you've got orders, but at the same time, you've got a lot of inventory. You've got a lot of borrowings, which this entrepreneur has taken, because every time he feels that if I'm not able to deliver, I have to borrow and increase my capacity. At the same time, there's a lot of firefighting, right? So all these issues are there. And as I said, this entrepreneur has tried multiple things, but he has not been able to come out of it.
Right.
And our intervention typically helps him to find out what we call as the constraint. And I
Hmm.
think this word is very important because it is often misunderstood from the point of view that constraint is negative, and the fact that there are many constraints in the organization. So
Right.
both of these, our opinion are myths. They are incorrect. First of all, actually constraint is a very positive thing, because you have to look at constraint as a leverage point,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
In the sense that the laws of science and all teach us that there is some kind of convergence. When you do
Right.
some kind of a why analysis, ultimately you will find that you will reach to one core issue, which we call
Yeah.
as the constraint. So if you
Right.
don't identify the constraint of your organization, whether you like it or not, it is going to be there. You will end up trying to change many things, hoping that there'll be improvement. And actually, you will find that all your efforts will, most of it will go waste, because unless you focus on the constraint, no improvement will really happen.
Right.
So what happens with these organizations is that we do this analysis initially, and we help them to identify what is the constraint, where is the focusing point, where is the leverage point, and then we
Right.
put together a clear-cut solution of how you need to come out of this. And that typically involves changes in the way they do their production planning and execution, the way they interact with their suppliers, the way they measure people, the way they take decisions about how to manage a product portfolio. So it's quite a holistic thing. It touches the IT systems in some way, right? So all of these changes, they're all interconnected, they're all interrelated around the constraint, around trying to overcome this constraint,
Right.
is what we do in these kind of engagements. And the power of this is that once you're able to identify the constraint, then the results can come very fast. So just to make it tangible, if I have to talk about constraint from the point of view of, say, a shop floor, where a product has to go through, let's say, 5 machines for it
Right.
to ultimately come out. If you find that, let's say, your machine 3 has the least capacity, and so it is like your bottleneck.
Right.
Now, how much ever improvement you might do in machine 1, 2, 4, and 5, ultimately, unless you are able to get the maximum out of the machine number 3, your output is not going to increase.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know this, you will continue to improve, try to improve everywhere, and you will not get the results. And secondly, there's this big issue of trying to make your assets sweat, or
Hmm.
this whole concept of efficiency and utilization.
Right.
SMEs have to be very careful. Not only SMEs, all companies have to be very careful, because this, in my opinion, in our opinion at Yagna, is the biggest problem.
Hmm.
Right? If you try to make all resources efficient and make them work 100%, your company will be very close to bankruptcy.
True, true, true. No,
Yeah.
wonderfully said, and I think that's a very important point and a pertinent point that you made, Anirudh.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, how open have you seen, these businesses to the changes or the suggestions that you make, right? And is there a, like, have you seen like a threshold after which they start listening more? Like, what's that journey like for you working with each of these companies?
Yeah. So fortunately, Dr. Goldratt, as I said, was a thinker, and he has come out with a wonderful set of tools called thinking processes. And
Okay.
one of the set of thinking process is what is called as layers of resistance.
Hmm.
So you are very right that, see, when somebody like us, an entity like Yagna, goes and approaches an SME entrepreneur, see, he's reluctant, because there are so many consultants and so many organizations who come to him with saying that we have the magical wand, and most
Exactly.
of the time, that magical wand doesn't do anything. There is no magic. So the layers of resistance teaches us very carefully that you need to peel, each of the layers very carefully. So, for example, the first is agreement on the problem. So
Hmm.
the first step which we do in our sales cycle is, first we establish with the owner entrepreneur and the organization that this is your core problem. We don't talk about any solution, we don't talk about any of our offerings or anything like that. Because unless we agree on the problem, right, there is no point in going to the subsequent steps.
Absolutely.
So we follow a very
Absolutely.
structured process of agreeing on the problem, agreeing on the direction of solution, agreeing on the full solution, then actually having a step where we invite the team, the company team, to come out with what are the list of negatives and obstacles, right? So it's a very structured process what we go through. And in some cases, when I talked about certain 20 mini projects, what happened is we did the agreement on the problem, we did the direction of solution, and the company thought that, okay, we ourselves will be able to implement that solution. So we were
Okay.
happy. We said, okay, you go ahead and implement it. Whatever support you need, you let us know. In these 10 full-fledged projects, we go through all the steps, and we handhold the SMEs till they actually get the results. So it's a very structured process which we try and employ through our sales cycle, and the same continues when we actually do even the project implementation.
Got it. Got it. So this is very interesting because what initially when you mentioned that you have a large variable component and a small fixed component plus this entire process, right? I think both of them combined together gives you, like, gives the SME visibility also, that these guys are here to benefit me, and not typically like how that consultancy is determined, right? Where people come and give some suggestions and go away. So it's not like that. So moving on, so you've been doing this for 5 years now. What's the future like for Yagna? And where do you see this going in the next 5 years or 10 years?
So I think 2021 and 22, three important areas which we have identified is, one is to spread the awareness about Yagna and this body of knowledge called TOC.
Right.
Because though there are, in fact, many good case studies in India, in big companies, in SMEs of TOC, let's be very clear, it is not still that widespread. And people have typically, say, picked up the book, The Goal, which you referred to at the start of the conversation.
Right.
But most of them actually don't go about implementing it, or many people think that, okay, TOC is only about production and there is
Hmm.
nothing else to it. So that is one important piece. And I think through important partners like Game, we would like to, spread this knowledge and make people aware, make companies aware that this is a very powerful body of knowledge which they must evaluate very closely and adopt it.
Right.
Second is continuous efforts to crash the lead times internally for the clients to start experiencing results. Because with SMEs, they just don't have the patience and they just don't have that kind of staying power to just continue paying the consultants without getting results. And we don't
Right.
want to be in that game. And so we want very, very clearly that how we can bring down 90 days, such as 13 weeks to 8 weeks to 4 weeks, so that immediately the client should start experiencing that his production rate is improving, his receivables are coming down, his inventory is going down, right? All of that, those really measure results which matter, he should
Right.
start experiencing in 4 to 8 weeks. So that is one very important continuous improvement journey which we are doing. So there is an element of technology involved in that, IT, which we are looking at, and we've got tie-ups with few IT vendors to make that happen. And the third part is, I think this whole last 12 months period of COVID has also made us look at this whole remote model, right?
Right.
Because so far we have been mostly implementation oriented consultants who work very, very closely with the partners, who closely work with the companies. And we are in fact working on the shop floor. We work with people in, suppliers, all of them, very, very close, very closely with them. But now the reality of the world is that, certain amount of work will have to be done remotely.
Absolutely.
And so we are also looking at ways how we can adapt to it. So maybe it will be a mix of on-site and remote model, or in some cases maybe we could even experiment with a full remote model. So those are the kind of things we are looking at as we head into the next 1 or 2 years. And over a 5-10 year period, over a 10 year period, our in fact vision is that we should be able to touch minimum 1,000 companies, 1,000 SMEs positively, and make an impact on them.
That's a wonderful goal. In fact, as you say that you're moving to a hybrid or a technology based model, maybe that allows you to scale faster as well, right? And deal with a large number of clients at the same time.
Yes.
Moving on, wanted to ask you about your experience so far working with Game. I know we have only had like one major touch point, which is the Entrepreneur Mart, and which is the services platform that we are bringing out. But overall, what's your sort of experience been like so far with Game? What do you think of the vision and the mission that we have, and how aligned do you think we are in our journeys, as partners?
No, Game is, I think, a wonderful initiative. In fact, to give you a short story, I got in touch with Mr. Ravi Venkateshan, during the lockdown period, and I actually had very briefly interacted with Mr. Venkateshan when he was the chairman at Cummins, when I used to
Got it.
work at Cummins in the late 90s.
Mhm.
And I was exploring and I came across this whole concept of Game, and I think it's a wonderful concept, this whole concept of mass entrepreneurship. And I think it complements well with Yagna, as I said earlier, because we believe that there'll be a set of entrepreneurs who will get spawned out of good and flourishing SMEs. So when they've
Right.
worked in SME for a period of time, they will learn the basic tricks of the business, and then venture out on their own and create more and more companies. So I see Game and Yagna being very, very complementary, and I think so far it's been a good experience. And I think we are now kind of aligning on multiple things in terms of this particular session, then probably participating in one of your accelerators.
Right.
And so really looking forward to the association in short.
Wonderful. I think those are the the questions I had, Anirudh. Thank you so much for sharing with us about the goal, the theory of constraints, talking to us about the clients and the MSMEs that you work with and have worked with so far. Also, your vision going forward, and we really look forward to a fruitful association with Yagna and with the work that you do, and looking forward to also working with you in that vision to touch positively 1,000 SMEs across the country. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, PD. Look forward to the association. Thank you.
Uh, Nina, can we stop the recording, please?